You're listening to Procurement 6, the weekly podcast from the team at Art of Procurement that summarizes this week in procurement in just 6 short segments.
Hi there, my name is Helen Mackenzie and today is Friday, September the 6th, 2024.
6.
Part of my role involves speaking to people who've never come across Art of Procurement before. Now, we usually work into a fixed amount of time, and to be honest, I'm much more interested in hearing about them than I am about telling them about us. So I've had to fine-tune my description of what we do and the value we create here at AOP into an elevator pitch. Having an elevator pitch for how you and your procurement team adds value is essential, because if you only get a few minutes with a stakeholder, you want to make the best impression you can. So my advice to you this week is to polish up your elevator pitch. Knowing how you add value and being able to communicate it is essential.
5.
In this week's episode of the Art of Procurement podcast, Philip Ideson and Kelly Barner put themselves in the hot seat with a kind of mid-year review on the latest trends and challenges impacting procurement so far this year. Now, it's no surprise that AI is top of their list, but also up there is the economy and the pending presidential election in the US. We've also done our own research here at Art of Procurement into our community's content preferences, and we were pleasantly surprised with what we found. Let's take a listen.
So what's going on in the world of procurement? We thought we'd start. We did a little bit of a survey, and we want to thank everybody for who did participate and answer questions. We wanted to learn a little bit more about, what is on your mind as procurement professionals and practitioners this year, and just some really interesting kind of nuggets of information that came out of that survey. One of the things that was really interesting to us as content creators is that content needs, you always think, is there too much content out there?
Yeah.
Or are we creating too much? Well, the message we got from the survey was that actually content needs are increasing. We asked that across about 7 different content types. On average, about 65% said that needs are increasing, 33% said staying the same, and only 2% said, hey, I want less content, which was really interesting to me. I think it's probably more, as we saw some of the other results in the survey, was more around, I need more quality content, generally, as opposed to I need more. Because I think that's one of the other things that kind of stood out was it is really all about quality, and there's so much content that I think with the explosion of AI as well makes it a lot easier to create content, that it's harder for good content, or you're looking in more places to get that good content.
I will admit to being surprised, although pleasantly surprised, by these findings, because I always have sort of that same feeling like, okay, at what point is everybody going to say, enough, please, no more content. We have more content than we can handle. And yet maybe to your point about quality, a lot of the volume that's being circulated, people might not actually recognize as the content that they're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And they're getting better and better at weeding and sifting through all that.
Yeah, and it makes, it goes loud and clear as well around, how can we make content that is more targeted, but in a way that, fits your industry, fits your very specific situation. And so that's certainly something that it's very hard to do at scale. It's also very hard to do without a huge, big team of folks creating content. But, it gets the cogs whirring, if you will, about how can you take content that is not necessarily created for a specific industry, but then create derivatives of that content that take more nuance for individual industries, which means that it's written more for you and is more valuable for you based on your current situation, rather than you having to try and make that leap between something that's generic and something that, okay, how do I apply that to my certain specific circumstance?
Thanks to everyone who participated in our survey and for helping us produce content to get your cogs whirring. To listen to the full episode with Phil and Kelly, go to artofprocurement.com/podcast or search for Art of Procurement and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts, or click in the link in today's show notes.
4.
As AI solutions continue to make their way into the procurement tech stack, leaders have to decide which tasks and processes are best suited for AI versus those where a human resource remains essential. Now, we've recently published a new white paper written in collaboration with the team at Procurability to lay out a 4-part strategic framework procurement can use to determine the ideal division of labour between AI tools and human talent. The white paper covers how to develop a structured, repeatable process to create the optimal balance between AI and your team, what it means to develop healthy resistance to AI and why it's so important for successful AI implementation, and real-world use cases where AI amplifies, not undercuts, the impact of your human team members. To download your free copy of the white paper, head on over to artofprocurement.com/resources.
This is Procurement 6 from Art of Procurement. To get notified every time an episode is published, go to artofprocurement.com/subscribe. 3.
In this week's episode of the Sourcing Hero podcast, Kelly Barner spoke to Natalia Pickett, Head of Procurement at Keolis Amy, a global public transportation company. Natalia shared her passion and enthusiasm for procurement with a focus on the relationships they should aim to build, procurement's strategic role as a matchmaker, the relationships that need to exist between procurement and the business, and procurement and suppliers, as well as how to foster them, and why process, tech and analytics are nothing if there's no spark. You can hear the full interview by clicking in the link in today's show notes or by searching for the Sourcing Hero wherever you find your podcasts.
2.
I read an interesting article published in Forbes this week in which the author Steve Banker tells us that no one knows how many warehouses there are in the US. Now, if you don't need to know how many warehouses there are, this problem might feel a bit abstract. But not knowing how much or how many is a problem I've come across again and again during my time in procurement. And not being able to understand demands means you're starting from a position of weakness when you're trying to put a contract in place, whether it's for software licenses or replacement warehouse doors. As Steve points out in his article, being able to quantify demand can help develop and grow the supply chain. More suppliers, more choice, and more value for procurement to identify and secure. To read the full article, go to the link in the show notes.
1.
We've got a new webinar coming out where you can hear what actions supplier diversity leaders are taking to improve their programs, as well as the biggest trends driving their programs today and tomorrow. In the live session, the team from Supplier I.O. will discuss key findings of their 7th annual State of Supplier Diversity report. Supplier I.O. surveyed over 350 supplier diversity professionals to better understand how they are meeting the expectations of the board and the executive team, key internal stakeholders and diverse owned suppliers. Join us on September the 17th at 11 a.m. Eastern as Laura Noonan and Daniel Dorr explore the trending topics from the 2024 report, including data. Join us on September the 17th at 11 a.m. Eastern as Laura Noonan and Daniel Dorr explore trending topics from the 2024 report. You can register now by checking out the link in the show notes.
Thanks for listening. We'll be back next Friday at 6 a.m. U.S. Eastern Time. If you've enjoyed this pod, help us grow and tell your peers to search for Procurement 6 wherever they get their podcasts.